And then we're going to start with our welcome. So welcome to our STEM Career Showcase. Thanks for inviting us to your classroom today. Today's session is brought to us by the Community Education Center for Elk and Cameron counties and the Penn State Extension 4-H program. This month, we are recognizing the National Manufacturing Day. And today, we hope that we're going to provide you some opportunities to gain more insight and exposure in the field of manufacturing and to help you assist and analyze some of your future career choices. So there's a lot of different things in our area that could be really good career choices for all of you. Just a little history, about 40% of the world's powdered metals are produced in North Central America for applications in things like the automotive industry, lawn and gardening products, home appliances, and a lot of other things. Approximately 56 powdered metallurgy firms provide employment for over 10,000 people in our area. So many of the manufacturers can actually trace their roots back to Elk County, St. Mary's in particular. And many of you guys may have heard that we are known as the powdered metal capital of the world. Now, powdered metal is not the only manufacturing agency that we have in this area. And you guys are going to actually hear from Mr. Bill Buchheit today, who is part of Allegheny Contracting. And he's going to tell you all about what they do and how their business is related to manufacturing and pipeline construction. So at this time, I'm going to pass it off to Mr. Bill Buchheit from Allegheny Contracting. He's going to do a very nice presentation for you guys, and then we're going to go through an activity together. So go ahead, Mr. Buchheit.
Okay, good morning, everyone. As Natalie said, I am a part of Allegheny Contracting. We have various levels of education that work for us. We have different jobs that we do, but our primary job is to get energy in the form of natural gas from point A to point B, with point B being homes and businesses and basically where you live and where you spend your time. A lot of the energy is used for heat in the wintertime. People will use the gas energy for cooking. If you have a gas stove, it could be for heating water, when you take your bath or take your showers. So we try to get the gas to you as safely as possible, and that's our number one goal. Since we do work with natural gas, and natural gas is an explosive material, safety is our number one priority. Everything we do, everything that we train on, revolves around safety. As far as I go, my job is as a trainer. I am an in-house trainer. I was a high school biology teacher for almost 20 years, and it was a natural fit for me to come into the industry and train the guys, train the girls that work here to be able to do their jobs efficiently and safely to be able to get you the gas. So if you want to start the presentation, Ms. Zalio.
Mr. Buchheit, I was so excited it was you. Like you are.
Well,
so
this is kind of odd for me because I'm so used to being able to feed off the faces, in the classroom, that this is kind of weird to be talking to a computer screen. but we'll get her done. We'll get her done. Yeah, and with fifth graders, bless your heart. That's another challenge for me. I'm used to older kids. But.
Oh, they're like laser focused on your pictures. They're very excited about this.
Oh, good.
They do not know a lot about natural gas, though. This is like really fabulous because then I'm going to go into energy after you do this.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Can you fill me in? How many kids there, just a show of hands, know if their house is heated by gas or electric?
About 90% of them, their house is heated by gas or electric.
Okay. Yep. That's probably most of them would be gas. Out of that, most of them would be gas. Those that aren't probably use wood or wood chips, coal, that type of thing. But most of this area is natural gas, and we're the ones that bring you that gas. So if you look at the picture on the presentation there, if you start in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see where there's what's called producing wellheads. And those wellheads are located on the surface of the ground, but they drill down into the ground to remove natural gas from the earth itself. Those wells remove the gas and send it through gathering lines to compressor stations, processing plants, and storage. So the natural gas doesn't really go directly from the ground to your house, but it goes through processing and it goes through what's called a compressor station where it can be put under higher pressure so we can move it through the lines more safely. Underneath the producing wellhead, you'll also see underground storage for future use. You'll see large compressor stations with electric plants to generate electricity. So even though you may be getting using electricity to heat your house or obviously to run your electrical lamps and things like that, it may have eventually come from or originally come from the use of natural gas or coal. Up to that point, those lines, those gas lines are what are called transmission lines. And we work on transmission lines. One of the two areas we work on is transmission lines. Those crews, the guys that work here, the girls that work here, that work on transmission lines, those are usually very large, 24 to 36 inch steel gas lines that are underground that are under very high pressure. Okay, so they have a lot of pressure on them. They're moving a lot of gas up until the compressor station. So if you see right in the very middle of that picture, you see a compressor station. Okay, that compressor station feeds the city gate, which is right below it. That city gate is, again, I can't see pictures or people, but has anybody ever smelled natural gas? Marcia, Mrs. Rubenstraw?
Yeah, that's okay. About 6 of them said they have.
They have smelled natural gas. Okay. What you're actually smelling is an odorant called mercaptan that's added to the natural gas. The natural gas itself is odorless. It doesn't, when it comes out of the ground, it doesn't have a smell. Why would you think they would add that odor, that strong, pungent, it's almost like rotten eggs. It's a very high sulfur smell. Why do you think they would add that to the gas?
Why? Zach, come up to the camera and tell them. I'm going to have the kids come up to the camera and answer.
Oh, okay. Great, great.
Just right there.
Maybe because it's poisonous and they don't want people to smell it.
Okay, well, they do want people to be able to smell it. That's the difference. If they don't put this smell in it, people can't smell it. So if you didn't know natural gas was there, would you ever light a match?
Yeah.
You would light a match around natural gas.
I'm not that. I got confused. No, I would not do that because it's
Okay, good. Okay, I'm sorry. I am a confusing person sometimes. But if you smelled it and you knew that natural gas was there, you definitely wouldn't light the match, right?
Yeah.
Right, but if they don't put the odor in, you don't know if it's there because it's odorless. It doesn't smell. So by the time it gets to your home, if you have a leak where the gas is escaping from the piping, you want to be able to smell it. That's why they put it in there, is a safety mechanism for homeowners to be able to smell the gas. Okay, so the mercaptan is what it's called, and it's an odorant that allows customers to be able to smell the gas. Otherwise, we wouldn't know it was there, and if somebody lit a match, or even there's lots of ignition sources, even ringing a doorbell, turning on a light switch can cause ignition of natural gas. So if you're ever in your house and you smell natural gas, what should you do?
Who knows? What should you do? Lucas. What would you do? What would you do if you smelled natural gas? Lily? Call somebody, but what would you do? Come on up, Lucas. Talk to Mr. Buhite.
turn off all the lights in your house.
Hi, Lucas.
I would get out of the house and then call for help.
Awesome. Excellent answer. You don't want to pick up the phone. You don't want to turn off the lights and get out of the house. You want to get out of the house right now. Go to a neighbor's house or take your cell phone, and when you're in a safe place, go ahead and make that phone call. And you call 911. Go ahead and call 911. It is an emergency. It's very important to make that call very, very quickly. Okay? So we got gas out of the ground. We got it into storage. We got it to the city gate, which is there in the middle. Now it becomes distribution gas. Distribution gas is where we give it to the customer. We send it out to large volume customers like that big building on the left, residential customers, homes. Almost everybody, especially in this area, uses natural gas in some form. Okay, so that's all distribution. We do that also. You may have seen us downtown a couple weeks ago, down in the West End by the gas stations. We were working down there. We were working by the grocery store. But that's what we do, is we put gas lines or gas pipes in the ground to get gas to you as a customer or your family. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Zalio. The next one is a very similar diagram. You can see it's the same thing on the left-hand side of the gathering lines, large compression or compressor stations, underground storage, all transmission until it gets to the city gate. Once it gets to the city gate, they add that odorant, that mercaptan, and it becomes distribution, where it's distributed out to homes and businesses to be consumed. All right.
Mr.
Next one,
Moonshine,
please. Yes, ma'am.
Is this underground or is this above ground?
The compressor stations are above ground and usually have valves. You can see here, this picture is one of our transmission crews. What they're doing there is they're actually, what they're setting on, the green pipe, is the transmission line. You can see they're below ground. They have to excavate using a heavy equipment. They dig out the pipe. You have to obviously be very careful because you don't want to hit the pipe with your equipment and cause a leak. But what the blue that extends upward, that's a valve. So they can shut off the gas flow without having to dig up the pipe. So the pipe itself is underground, but they have valves above ground that they can use to stop the flow of gas if necessary. Okay?
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, and they're giving me the thumbs up that they get where what's going on.
Okay, so most of our work is below ground, which again brings in safety. That's why we're excavation. That's why we're a contracting company. Safety, you got to be very careful when you're working underground because that ground can collapse on you. So you have to be very careful how you dig, where you dig, and how you prevent that from collapsing in on the crew as they're in the ground working. Most of our work is between 3 and 5 feet below surface. So we're not real deep. Like if we were installing water lines, we could be up to 15, 20, 25 feet below ground. And that creates a lot of issues in itself. But for gas lines, they're usually 3 to 5 feet below the surface. Okay. The next picture. Again, you can see on the surface, we have a lot of equipment. Where the pipes are coming up, those will be above ground. Where the guys are working, the guy in the center there, the two guys with the plates on their forehead, those are our welders. There's obviously a lot of work for our welders to be able to hook the pipes end to end. They are welded together. Now, they're not usually welded with gas in them. They usually weld them and put them in the ground before they enter the gas into them. Obviously, that would create a scary situation if the gas was in there, but sometimes it does happen where they weld on live lines. Very skilled, very highly qualified individuals. They have to go to school for welding. They have to get trained. They continue their education. They continue their testing. If you think tests are going to be over once you get out of school, I hate to break it to you, you're still gonna have to take tests. All of our employees are tested either annually or every 2 to 3 years, depending on what the skills are, to verify that they still understand how to do things and you know what the correct procedures are. So testing is a part of life. It's something that you do every day in school. It's something that you will do the rest of your life. So your teachers, even though they're teaching you things that you're looking at going, I really don't need this, and I understand that, they're teaching you also how to learn and how to study and how to remember things. So remember that you'll need that the rest of your life as long as you're working. Let's take a look at the next picture. This is a real good example of the valve that I was talking about. You can see there's a T on it. What they did was the picture that we saw earlier, on the right hand, that is the main line, and then they tapped it. They put in a new pipe or an extension off of that line so gas can flow in a different direction. You can just barely see at the very top of the picture the wheel. As they spin that wheel, it turns the bottom of the structure, and it actually spins a valve which will close off the flow off to your left. What you're seeing there is your left. Now, if you remember, that pipe was green when we first saw it. Now it's all white, and if you look at the very top end of that, you can see it's almost like a spiral. They have to protect that because what happens to steel underground? Anybody know? Well, it happens above ground too, but it happens a lot below ground. What would happen to steel when it's under the ground?
It gets rusty.
Exactly. Very good. It gets rusty. And if it rusts enough, that steel pipe will not be able to hold the gas anymore. So if it can't hold the gas, that gas begins to leak. And when you have leaking gas, you have a dangerous situation. So that pipe has been protected from what you call rusting, we call corrosion. It's basically the same thing. It's the destruction of the steel of the pipe. So let's take a look at the next picture. Much bigger operation, right? A lot bigger pipe, but it's basically the same thing. You have a main line running in the same direction as the previous picture. You have an extension coming off of it, and you have a valve sticking up out of the ground. But you can see those guys, they're probably over 6 foot tall. So those pipes are some pretty big pipes. You're talking 48-inch pipe there, big pipe. They're coating it, again, to prevent corrosion or rusting. Next picture. Here is one of our drills. When one of the things we do in the field is we will go out and we will tap live lines. So we will actually hook this onto a pipe, and it will actually drill out a piece of the existing pipe so we can remove that section and put a new line or attach a new gas line to an existing line. Over on the far left, up in the corner, you can see the drill bit. Not a little bit to your left, right below that, you can see the teeth right there. Yep, you can see the teeth. That's one of the bits that would actually cut through the steel pipe to be able to remove a section so that we can get gas going in a different direction.
Mr. Buhait, do they have to program that, or do they do that, like with a piece of equipment, like with the drill bit? Do they?
That's the actual drill bit right there. And it's not computer programmed. It is run by a motor, a motor, a diesel motor that will just continuously and it has to be fed and it has to be monitored to make sure that it's not overheating and things like that. So there's a lot of gauges and a lot of pressures that have to be regulated and controlled. But it's not done by computer. It's done by the skill of the guys operating.
So obviously there's a lot of math involved in that. Am I correct?
Incredible amount of math. One of the things we just ran into on a recent job was the people who set it up for us to come in and do the hot tap or to do the tap into the line. They didn't measure the extension, the pipe that comes off of it right. If you make it too short, when you're running the drill, you can actually drill out the back side of the pipe. And obviously you don't want that. If you make it too long, then you can't cut all the way through the pipe. So there's a lot of dimensions. You have to know pipe wall thickness. You have to know the length of your drill. You have to, yeah, there's an awful lot of math. Actually, the guy that's standing in the background right there, he is one of our mathematicians. He is a calculator. He pretty much is a walking calculator. Like, he is, he's very intelligent, very good at math, geometry, trigonometry, a lot of formulas. You know, there's definitely a lot of math involved. Yeah. And again, not saying that math is the only skill, but it's definitely used in just about everybody's job. Everybody that works here uses math in one form or another. So being able to handle numbers and use numbers, definitely an important skill. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Zalio. So this is just like other northeastern states, Pennsylvania has a significant amount of old cast wrought iron, bare steel main lines. So in the ground right now in our area, there's a lot of steel. And like one of the students said earlier, steel will eventually rust, even though we try to protect it and make it last as long as it will, or as long as we can. We need to replace it. So that is a big part of what we're doing right now with our job. And there is, you know, like it says, there is a lot of old cast iron. We're trying to replace that with polyethylene plastic. So it's a priority. It's a big part of the safety. And usually when you see crews out in the field, that's what they're doing, is they're replacing the steel lines with plastic. That's a big part of our distribution program. So next. 6 years ago, which this data is a little bit outdated, but fourth highest number of cast iron, over 3,000 miles of pipe in Pennsylvania. So we're second in the nation. We represent 15% of the total main miles that was cast iron. So you can see that's a lot of work and a lot of time that's going to be done to replace those old lines with new plastic lines. Public Utility Commission is the one that handles that. They're the ones that authorize the owners of the company. Around here, most of our is National Fuel. We also do some work for Columbia Gas, Dominion Gas. Different companies own different gas lines. That's a little bit more advanced. But go ahead. So when the gas comes to your house, this is the distribution program. So we talked about the transmission side. This is more distribution. This is getting it from that city gate that we talked about at the very beginning and the storages to your home. So you can see usually the main line runs parallel to the road, to a road outside of your house. And what they'll do is they'll put a tap on, which accesses the gas in the main line to bring it to your house. I can see most of the class, just show of hands. How many of you people have a gas meter that's shown, you know, above the house there? How many people have seen their gas meter at their house? Okay, so a few of you, good. That definitely means that you have gas coming to your house, and that's the way of measuring how much gas is coming to your house. So the gas comes from the main line. You can see that there is a curb or a stop valve. Usually, most of the new lines, the technology has improved. They used to have a curb box, a little metal box that stuck up along your curb, where you could pop the top off that, stick a wrench in there, and shut the gas flow off. That took time. Now what they have, when they install gas lines at your house, they have what's an automatic shut-off valve. So if the pressure drops in your house, meaning there's a leak or there's gas being released somewhere in your house unexpectedly, it automatically shuts off at that curb valve, which is a nice safety feature. Once the gas goes through the meter, then it goes into your house. And like I said at the beginning, it could be for hot water. It could be for cooking. It could be for a furnace. You might have a gas fireplace in your home. There's lots of different uses of natural gas, and it's a pure burning, highly efficient mode of getting energy. Real quick, I want to talk about natural gas burning in your home. How many people have carbon monoxide monitors in your house that you know of? A couple of, okay, great. If you have gas, or even if you're using wood, whatever you're burning in your house for energy, for heat, you really should have a carbon monoxide indicator, okay? Carbon monoxide is a very toxic, poisonous gas that if your appliances aren't working properly, that'll release that gas in your house, and it can kill you, and it can kill you very quickly. Okay, so it's definitely something that you want to think about. Talk to your parents and invest in a carbon monoxide detector. Check your stoves, check your furnaces when they're running. If they're burning yellow flames, they're probably not burning correctly, and they're probably giving off carbon monoxide, so you want to watch that. Okay, next slide, please. These are some of just some brief pictures of some of our crews. This is actually down in State College. The process here is they have a 2-inch main. Remember, I talked about the transmission lines were really big. They were 24 to 48 inch. These ones are usually 2 to 4 inch. Okay, they're a lot smaller lines, a lot less pressure. But what they'll do is they will dig a trench, a hole in the ground, where they can lay the pipe in, and then they can tap into it to access to get gas to each and every home. The middle picture, you can see the guy standing in the ditch, and what he does is he watches the bucket, the guy digging, to make sure that he doesn't hit anything else and damage anything else that might be in the ground. Electric could be in the ground, sewer is in the ground, water is in the ground. There's lots of other things in there you really have to be careful of. The number one thing there, though, can anybody see what's beside him on the side of the ditch? Anybody see what that, yep, right there.
What is that, Danica? Come on up and, well, tell them.
Go ahead, I'm not scared.
Isn't it like to put a fire out?
Yeah, it's a fire extinguisher. Very good. They keep a fire extinguisher anytime, because if they accidentally do cause a gas release and have a fire, and this has happened, they need a fire extinguisher there to be able to put that fire out very quickly. And those are high volume, high density fire extinguishers that would put out fires very, very fast. It's real hard to see on top of that, but on top of the fire extinguisher is a black box, and that's what's called a CGI. It's a combustible gas indicator. And it has a tube running off of it that also runs into the ditch that monitors the atmosphere, because sometimes there will be toxic gases that gather. Some gases are heavier than air, some are lighter than air. If they are heavier than air, they will sink into that ditch, and they can cause our employees to get sick, or pass out. So they constantly monitor the environment. So again, Mrs. Rubenstraw, that comes back to some of the things that math skills, being able to read instruments, there's a lot going on. These guys have a lot of things going on in our plates at one time, and a lot of responsibilities. And if things go wrong, it can get bad real fast. So very important that you pay attention, be able to follow the rules, follow the procedures right to the letter. Just because it's so important.
Well, one of the main focuses or main objectives in STEAM is to teach them problem-solving strategies. And kids, you can see where you would then apply this in real life. If they have these situations, that's when you start applying all those strategies you've been taught. And this is where it starts to connect with real life. Like I keep telling you, you're learning this for real life, and we put it into real life situations. And here it's critical because people could die. So you don't know what type of job you're going to do. So it's important that you learn these skills so you're able to attack problems quickly and efficiently.
There's so many times when I'm out in the field, and I'm amazed that, like I said, I was a teacher for almost 20 years, and when I see what these guys can do with their thought processes, things very seldom go the way they're supposed to go. Okay, there's always obstacles, and there's always problems that are constantly coming up in the field that were not expected. and their ability to solve those problems and continue to get their work done and continue to provide the services that they do, it's essential. It's being able to think. It's being able to use your brain, like Mrs. Rubenstraw said, to solve problems. We can't predict what problems are going to come up, but your teachers can give you examples of problems so you get used to thinking. So you get used to using your logic, using your common sense, those types of things that are going to help you become a successful employee and a successful person in life. Go ahead, Ms. Aliel. These are just some of the tools. Again, some of the things we do. We join pipes together. We use different equipment to do that. These are what are called fusion machines. These are manual fusion machines that are used to connect the pipe end to end. They will actually melt the pipe and then squeeze it together so that they will fuse together. Go ahead. This is a little closer example. You can see the two ends of the pipe. Right in the middle, there's what's called a heat plate. That heat plate gets up to about 500 degrees Fahrenheit, and it will melt the plastic, and then they'll lift the plate out and they'll push those two ends of pipe together, and they'll actually melt together and create a fusion. Go ahead. This is one in you can see in between the ratchets on the machine there. There's a band where the pipe has been, this pipe has already been fused together. They usually come in 40-foot sections, and obviously we're putting in hundreds of feet of pipe, so you have to have a way of connecting the pipe. Go ahead. Again, just a little bit. Another picture showing the same thing. At the very bottom, you can see in the clamps, you can see just a small band where the pipe had been fused. Yep, right there. Exactly. Very good. That's where the pipe has been fused together. This is a hydraulic machine. And again, going back, Mrs. Rubenstraw, you were saying about math. The amount of pressure you put on the pipe, the being able to read the manual that gives you those pressures. This one is all done. The other ones were done by hand. This one is all done by this machine, which has different pressure gauges that you can change the pressure, depending on the size of the pipe, the density of the plastic, things like that. All things that you have to kind of understand the math and the science behind it to be able to do it. And it makes my job as a trainer for a new hire. If somebody's coming to work here, if they understand basic math and mathematical equations, when I train them to be able to use this machine, that makes it makes them a much better employee at a much quicker rate than if we have to teach them the math behind it. So again, that's why you're getting this stuff in school. That's why it's important to pay attention to your teachers. This is another hydraulic machine. It's just on tracks instead of being on wheels, to be able to go out into more difficult terrain. We're not always working in town, in streets. Sometimes we're out in the woods, working in places that it's tough to get machines in there. So this is a similar machine, but it's on tracks instead of being on wheels. This is actually in State College. You can see a long section of pipe that has been fused together. The yellow marks on the road off to the right a little bit, that's where the existing pipe is, and we're gonna dig a trench on the left side of that pipe away from those marks because we don't want to get close to the existing lines. Go ahead. I showed you the butt fusion, heat fusion. This is an electrofusion. Again, this one is actually computer based, and this one actually takes, go ahead. That's just the machine there. We can go to the next picture. This is a collar. You can see it has openings at each end. The pipe actually slides inside of those openings, and then the two tips at the top, you hook electrodes to it. Yep. And you can see a barcode on there. Yep, that you scan that, and then that machine will tell you what type of fitting that is based on the air temperature, based on everything surroundings. It will do all the work for you. So it is actually a computer based, but again, there's your problem solving. sometimes they don't work right. So sometimes you have to program in the information. You have to be able to go back and manually enter in some of the things that are supposed to take place automatically. There's your problem solving. Inside of that coupling is electrical wires that as you add electricity to them, they heat, and that's how they melt the pipe then, or melt the plastic. So it's always about melting the plastic to be able to get that fusion, that joining of the pipes. Similar picture, a little bit better picture of the fire extinguisher. You can see it's moved. The fire extinguisher needs to be upwind. So again, you're monitoring the wind direction, you're monitoring all these things. Keep going. Next slide. There you can see the employee at this point is actually monitoring the environment. I said there's a little rubber plastic tube that comes off. That tube that's coming off that black box is monitoring the atmosphere. My guess is at this point, something, an alarm went off and they're figuring out what's going on in that ditch. Go ahead. Similar, just more distribution pictures. Keep going. This is, you can see this one really clearly as far as installing service lines. So we were installing main lines along the road. Now you're looking at a service line and you can see that there's a tap coming off the top of that main line that runs laterally then to the meter to the house. Yep, right there. And those are done very similar to what we saw with transmission. There's tools. You have to melt a piece on, you have to screw a drill bit down in to allow the gas to come up and then come into the house. Here's just a picture of us installing, and again, you have the person who's watching. That's a mini excavator that they're using because they don't have to dig as deep. These are usually only 12 to 18 inches deep, the service lines. But you have somebody monitoring and watching because it's not easy to see from the controls of the machinery itself. That's a tap T. You can see how the left end would fit over top of the pipe. The black cap comes off and it's where you could drill down in to the pipe. There's a bit underneath there that would drill into the pipe. Then the gas would come up and go off to your right into the service line. Questions?
Mr. Buhait, we have about 5 minutes before we have to switch classes. Could I let the kids ask questions and see if
Absolutely.
they have questions?
Absolutely.
Kids, what kind of questions do you have for Mr. Buhait about this? Like, would you ever consider working and doing this type of work? Anybody have any questions? Oh, I can't believe you don't have any questions.
That just means I did a great job of explaining it.
I agree, and they really were attentive.
Well,
go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say,
let me just summarize with some of the things that with our company, you know, we put gas in the ground in pipes, but we also offer opportunities to do a lot of other things. We have safety managers, we have office personnel, we have accountants, people, you know, we have 150-ish employees. After they go through and install the pipelines, then we have crews that come back and make it look nice. They repave, they put new sidewalks in, plant grass, and, you know, use topsoil and plant grass if necessary. It's not just construction. There's a lot of different levels of education. There's definitely a lot of different levels of skill that are involved. So if anybody has any questions about the jobs that we have, maybe not so much what we do, but who does them and what types of things they do, maybe that's a better area of questions.
Kids, when he's been talking about all these different parts to their company, what he's saying is that, you know, some people have college degrees that work for Allegheny. Some people go to trade school. Some people come right out of high school and get jobs with Allegheny. There's all different levels depending on what you want to do. You know, a lot of you love hands-on. A lot of the jobs that are happening in Allegheny, you can see, are definitely hands-on. It depends on what you would like to do as to what kind of career you could have here. And what's really fabulous about this, it's local. You could stay here in this area. Some people want to do that, some people don't want to do that. Do you have any questions about like natural gas? I know that's a new topic for you. Any questions about that? Casey, come on up front so they can see you and hear you. Casey, yeah, just go right up to the screen.
We heard about natural gas in 4th grade.
I'm sorry, say it again.
We heard about natural gas in 4th grade.
A little bit? What do you know about natural gas?
Basically what he talked about.
Okay, so they have some background. I did have them do a pre-test about manufacturing, and I just kind of looked at it. I haven't been able to really analyze it, but a lot of them didn't have a lot of the information that you've just given them, so which is fabulous.
And one of the things I'll say about it too is even though you learned about it in the past, there's a lot of information that you'll continue to learn. There's a lot of things about natural gas that, maybe they didn't teach you in 4th grade, or, is that really the key? Is that specifically what they really want you to know, or do they want you to understand energy?
And there's a really neat activity that goes with this, and we didn't get to it today, but I'm really hoping that you all have a chance to do it. It's kind of everything that Mr. Buhait talked about, but you have your own little map, and you have to consider the costs of mapping a pipeline in order to kind of apply some of the things that you learned today. But I see there's somebody else at the camera. Buddy, go ahead.
Do you guys have to use any robotics to do this?
We do. It's minimal, but there's definitely, we use drones to view our work sites. We will use robotics in the manufacturing. Some of the fittings that we install, especially on the transmission side, the steel, it's going to be robotically measured and calculated before our welders actually put it together. So yes, absolutely. And that's a great question, because that opens up a whole new window of technology that's definitely, we're on the forefront right now, but it's, by the time you guys come into the workforce, it's going to be even more and more important. So absolutely, great question.
Natalie, we definitely will do that activity in the next class. I think they'll really enjoy it, and Mr. Buhait and you have given us some great information. I know they don't have a lot of questions, I think, because this is all, a new kind of idea of thinking about what's available for them in the ideas of careers.
Absolutely. Well, and thank you guys for allowing us again to come in. I'd like to thank the team from Allegheny Contracting for their presentation today. And students, thanks for being so attentive and for all of your questions. We really hope that you learned something awesome today and maybe find a fit in a manufacturing career.
Can we at least stand up, get up a little, get a move around and say thank you to Mrs. Elio and Mr. Buhait.
Mrs. Rubenstraw, if you have any more questions with any of your other classes, you can email me through Rita, or, however you need to get a hold of me, that's fine. I'd be more than happy to, to answer any more questions if they happen to come up. Sometimes it takes a little while to think about things, or even in your other classes that are watching the video recording of this. So absolutely.
I really appreciate it. And we might, especially once we get into the activity. And I really appreciate you both taking all your time to do this and educate our youth about careers that are local. So we really appreciate it. And thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.